Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome to Better Together. It is June 3rd, 2020. And when you know better, you get better. That's what we're doing here every day on this show. And yesterday we observed Blackout Tuesday, so we weren't with you, but we're back today. And we have an entire show for you. We are going to be featuring my friend. I will call him a Renaissance man because I think that is the best way to put him, even though we have a long laundry list of his expertise, whether it's cybersecurity, tech. He's also a former Marine, a passionate social justice advocate, Krav Maga expert, guitar expert. I mean, he's Japanese expert. He's everything. AJ is everything. He's been on the show many times. My friend AJ Jolivette is here today with us, and we're going to talk all about, of course, the current events and where we're at in this world today on June 3rd. But we'll start with our quote of the day. We must always take sides. Neutrality helps the oppressor, never the victim. Silence encourages the tormentor, never the tormented. And that is from Holocaust survivor Elie Wiesel. As I said, thank you guys for joining us today and every day. If you haven't become a member of Patreon, please join us. We have really great shows there. You can just click the link in the summary. We have a new show up today as well for you guys. Yeah, let's get to it. AJ, how are you?
Hey, Maria, how you doing? Can you hear me okay?
I can. We spoke over the weekend when I was a bawling mess. Where are you at today? How are you feeling about where things are here on June 3rd at 11 a.m.?
So my personal opinion, mostly just speaking for myself, is that there's a process that this goes through. Being in the field of war and on a battlefield of war and seeing similar things play out in other countries, there's a process that it goes through where America should start to become a much different, and that is our community should right about now be pretty much fed up, and then they will start to prevent some of the negativity that goes on that the police are having to deal with as well. And I think that will start to make it slow down dramatically. So when the community steps out to help protect the rest of the community, then I think it will be a dramatic, steep drop off of a lot of the unnecessary violence.
Yeah, I did see, it was bringing me to tears. I saw, it was 2 days ago on Monday, they were looting the Walgreens in Van Nuys, and I used to live right by there. That was my Walgreens that I used to go to. And the looters came in, the police stopped them. The second the police left, the looters came back. But then a lot of the peaceful protesters got out in front and said, no, stay out of here. And, you see George Floyd's brother come out and speak so passionately that George would never want this and that this isn't the way. And so, yeah, I feel the same thing. I feel like the message is getting out. And, I think last night was our first peaceful evening. I didn't hear of anything. Actually, I did hear of something. Did you guys hear this? That they and I don't remember where it was. It was in the middle of the night. I woke up and I just looked at my phone to see what was happening. But apparently a 13-year-old or some young person was shot 19 times.
Wow. It's
Did
fun.
you guys catch that anywhere?
I don't know
No,
if
I don't know about that one.
So maybe that was old. So sometimes old things are being recirculated as new, and maybe that's why it hasn't caught on. Maybe it wasn't the right thing. But it did seem, for the most part, a peaceful night, right?
Well, compared to the other nights, yes.
Yeah.
So this looks
Yeah,
like...
and I think we should hope to see more of that peaceful thing, and that peaceful behavior from being spurred on by the community, because the community will get fed up. That's one of the things that's different about America, and that is, generally speaking, and definitely before a lot of this divide, which I hope we'll talk about in a little bit, an American will run to save another American no matter what, without any questions. That's like the nature of America. And you can trust me when I say that it's not the way it is everywhere in the world. It's really not. So America has a unique place how the Americans feel about other Americans. It used to be that just being an American alone meant that you were safer in the world. That started to change when I served, um, because the perception of America started to change. So we became less safe just being an American than we were before. But it's still in America, though. Americans run to the aid of other Americans, and that type of behavior, which makes America very special, is the same thing that will keep us safe in the long run, as long as we can close the divide.
Yeah. I hope we can. I mean, that was one of the things you said to me that stuck with me so much this weekend is, that everyone's trying to divide and we need to stay together. And I remember I posted about it and it's really stuck with me. Especially, and I stay out of politics, but politics have become so dividing, and so it's us against them in politics, and it's been a bad scenario for us for so long.
Yeah, it has become deep rooted, but we talked about this. The oldest trick in the war book is divide and conquer. It's the oldest one. It's probably on page one, right? So, our country, a divide is okay because we have to be back and forth. We can't all be on the same side. We can't always be thinking about the same things. It's important for us to communicate with people who don't think like us. So that part's okay. But the country completely divided in this aspect, the longer it takes for us to get together and the longer we're divided, and of course this is my opinion, but it's based on my experience, there'll be more blood in the water. Okay, so the longer the divide, the more spread apart we are. There's more blood in the water, and when there's blood in the water, the sharks will come. The sharks are other countries that do not have our best interest at heart. And I'm not going to name them because you should be able to figure out who they are, but that is the main reason to heal the divide. Yes, absolutely. I care about this situation a lot, but if this is the thing that makes us close to divide, better for us for it, because we cannot stay divided. It puts our entire livelihood in our country, our economics, everything at risk because we're vulnerable that way.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the other thing. You were like, we're so vulnerable.
Yeah.
Did it make you feel a certain way to see how global this has gone?
Actually, yeah. So I have my daughters, and my middle daughter Ariane, she's very much so an activist. My oldest daughter, she's a counselor, Brittany, and the thing I had, because I had to talk to them, they had got to a point where they were just in pain, and the emotional pain started to be physical pain. I had to try to go talk to them. And fortunately, one of the things I told them was that, unfortunately, there's nothing new for us to see here. Us people of color, we've seen this type of thing before. But the light of hope I told them is the thing that's different is everyone, the same people who are using social media and things like that to coordinate where they're looting, that's the same social media platform that exists for them to coordinate getting together. And their generation is doing something the other generations could not. They're coordinating worldwide because of the speed of information that's available to them that wasn't available to us and the generations before us. And they're very good at using it to demonstrate, to connect, and to spread the information very quickly. Now, sure, there's lots of information spread that's not the best,
Yeah.
but that is actually provides hope, because as this whole thing, the violent piece and the ridiculous stuff starts to fade away, their communication should continue. So they'll be able to continue that message the same way they're doing it now. And now they're very aware. And they'll stay aware. It won't fade off into the background so easily with them being connected like that.
Yeah.
And then that's very inspiring. That's good news to me. And it was good news to them too. And it kind of gives you a different perspective as for some hope, because we need hope.
Yeah. Well, I feel like I've been riding different emotions throughout, and last night someone texted me, my friend texted me a video of the Boston Police Department all taking a knee with the protesters there, and I got so emotional. And I got so excited. I don't know if we have that video or that picture. Do we have that, Stephen?
I don't know if we have Boston, but we'll find
There
it right
we go.
now.
We have Miami. Miami.
Oh, that's Miami. But it was a similar scene in Boston.
Yeah, I saw it. Yep.
And as I started to see the officers across the country joining, whether it was walking, kneeling, talking to people, hugging people. We have beautiful pictures of people hugging. Like, are you able to see this media, AJ?
Yeah, I can see it. I have it here on my other technology.
I went to bed after I saw that last piece. I went to bed and I could be totally naive. I could be too much of a wishful thinker, too positive, but I had this feeling that was really deep. And you know when you feel like you're just on the edge, like I felt like we were on the edge of like, I think we could make a difference now. Like, I think, holy shit, this might be the moment that we are living in that will make a major change come. I don't know if you felt like that, but I felt like that when I went to bed last night, and I woke up a lot more hopeful today. And it was probably my first day getting through a meditation in a while because I just felt like I had a Mack truck on my chest and my heart.
Yeah.
But seeing that made such an impact on me, because when you see the people that, we don't want to paint all cops with, one swipe. They're not all bad, right? No group is all bad, whether it's people, a profession, or whatever. There's always bad apples in the groups, that make a bad name for people. But to see them all kneeling, it was a nice show. Whether it was real or not, I don't know.
Well, I can tell you, of course, being a martial artist and a former a Marine that was active and haven't been active for a while, I have lots of officers and people who serve either in the fire department or sheriff department, police departments that are friends that I train with. So I can guarantee you they're not all bad. But Chris Rock says something very interesting, and I think it's kind of true, is some professions can't deal with some bad apples. Like you can't have some pilots that crash sometimes. Like they all got to be good.
Good point.
Right? So, and it is the case with the police. They really need to have a very good system for weeding out the ones that are not good.
Yep.
And it's okay that there are some bad apples, as long as the bad apples are always on the way out.
Yeah. You can't have surgeons who are killing people. You're right.
We can't allow any bad apples to stay in. So yeah, granted, no process is perfect, but it should always strive towards perfection. And I don't think any of the police departments really have been striving towards perfection. And hopefully they will strive towards perfection now. Granted, we can't expect perfection. I get that.
Yeah.
Right. But that should still be the goal, even if it is unattainable.
Yeah. Well, one of the days I was talking to Kevin about this, I said, Kevin, they're protecting their own like the church was protecting their own. The Catholic Church has had a lot of issues, and they protected their priests as they committed the most heinous life-changing crimes. And so it's to me, if it was like something that I could compare it to, and it's horrible. And you're right. That's what I think, Atlanta is starting to do as they're firing police officers. I saw there were a few firings of Atlanta cops that had used aggressive force or whatever it was in the protests. Mm-hmm. I think they're taking a no tolerance policy. Jeff, remind me, there was somebody else too. In Louisville, they after that killing of that chef in Louisville, I'm pretty sure, they fired that police officer, right, Jeff?
Yeah, I saw that, and
that was recently, the guy who was shot protesting. Yes.
Yeah. He was unarmed, and so I feel like this is forcing them to do something that they should have been doing all along, is having a no tolerance policy. So
yeah, and well, okay. So again, I train people for this type of thing, right? And that is the real issue. the officers get tons, hundreds of hours of training to shoot and defend, and they get like maybe an hour worth of training on how to defuse a situation, right? So it's, you have to actually teach them how to not do that, right? You have to reduce the fear. People are, it's kind of like someone asked me recently, and I was in a meeting, a Zoom meeting, of course, and they asked me, because I have a military background and I work with law enforcement, and the question is, okay, well, how's it going to stop? How are we going to prevent it? And the only way you prevent it is education.
Yeah.
You have to give them a different set of tools. So if you bring the National Guard out, okay, great. So we bring the National Guard and we put them in different places. What are the tools that they have? Okay, so they have guns. Okay, great. They have bats. They have batons. Okay, great. They have cars. What have you trained them to do? Well, you've trained them to defend the country. Have you taught the National Guard how to defuse a situation with a civilian? Well, they don't have that tool. So then you can't expect them to actually use a tool that they actually don't have.
Yeah.
So when you bring in people like that, and that's okay because the National Guard is there for good reason, but they are there to back up the police force for manpower, right? Because the person you're talking about, he was actually killed by National Guardsmen, I believe. He wasn't shot by a police officer.
I don't remember.
The chef.
They're all blending now. There's so much in my head.
Yeah. So again, same with the police. If you can't, if I put you in the kitchen, Maria, and I tell you I want you to cook me a steak, and I love the way you cook anyway, and instead of bringing you a frying pan, I bring you a helmet that we use when we do a flak jacket, so a military helmet, and instead of a spatula, I bring you a hammer, and I give you the steak, and I put you in front of the stove, and I say, great, could you make me a steak? You're gonna be like, yeah. So you do the same thing. You put them to defend the country, or you put them to defend civilian, and you hand them these tools, and you say, okay, now be peaceful. You're like, I don't have any training on peaceful, but I can hit him with this baton if he comes close to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, even I know in Krav Maga, and you're, an expert in Krav Maga, you're taught to not use it unless you absolutely have to, right? Like you know the wording better than I do, but
yeah. So the best Krav Maga is run Maga, right? So we do Krav Maga so that we can get away. We don't do Krav Maga so we continue to engage. If you want to hear a little bit of story, and I don't know how much time you have to listen to me talk, Maria.
We have plenty of time.
But I will tell you why I do martial arts at all, and then you'll get it. It's about the tools. When I got out of the Marine Corps, well, I didn't get out. I was actually just coming off of active duty. I was still in reserves. I was working in Los Angeles. I'll make it short. I was working in Los Angeles, and people were very hostile towards me, and I would get into altercations just going to get lunch. And I realized then, as I ran through the scenarios of how I was going to defend myself, every time someone was dead. I was a Marine straight out of war. I didn't know anything other than Marines are taught to kill or die killing. That's it. That's all they're taught. I realized that I had a huge gap there. So I went looking for a way to fix it. So I took Aikido. Aikido is all about moving your opponent's energy away from you and using it against them. And it has 0 attacks. So I took Aikido for 2 years, and that fixed it. I gave myself another set of tools.
Wow.
And once I did that, I did it for just 2 years. Once I gave myself something else, I can't overwrite what I already know. I learned that when I took my black belt test for Krav Maga play. So I can't undo what I already know, but I can give myself additional tools. And then I said, okay, well, then I went to Iraq in 2008 with the Department of Defense. Okay, I need another set of tools. I started taking Krav Maga, and that's the key. People are not going to be able to do anything beyond what they're trained to do in times of stress.
Yeah.
That is how that works. That's why you train it, so that when the stressful point comes, your body just moves. It moves in a way it was trained, and it was moved to be peaceful. It was moved to subdue. It was not moved to draw and shoot when there's no need to draw and shoot. You have to train it out of them.
Yeah. Yeah, because if your instinct as a Marine is to kill, right? If someone on, Ventura Boulevard comes at you, then that's your training. Someone's coming at me, I need to protect myself. But if you have another set of tools, your instinct will kick in and know, well, it's not that kind of threat. I'm not in war. I'm not in Iraq right now. I can use this set of tools right now. So
that's correct. It's exactly the case. And that's what we train in martial arts.
Yeah.
And so one of the reasons I'm a multi-martial artist is for the same reason. So I train Krav Maga. Oh, crap, that's not enough if someone attacks me with a knife. I train Kali. Oh, that's not enough if someone takes me to the ground. I train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu because I need tools. Right? I need the training in order for me to do something, because you ever seen a situation where there's two scenarios that you'll get. One scenario is you got the person that just froze. Right? And then you got the other person that goes, oh, and they're safe, and they're like, this person is subdued, and they're like, I don't know what happened. In both of those scenarios, those people use their instincts.
Yeah.
Except one of their instincts had training. The other had nothing. So you don't use your brain in emergency situations. Your instincts, your second brain, your spinal cord, and your muscle memory, that's what moves. That's why you won't remember what happened necessarily. But if you have nothing in there, you freeze.
Mm-hmm.
But if the thing you had in there is draw and shoot, that's what you do.
Yeah.
AJ, I have a similar question while we're talking about just law enforcement and reform. I would guess, and I don't know, and maybe you can speak to this, that cops are generally underpaid. And I'm wondering, like, if we were to reorient the system, I'm seeing people call for defunding of law enforcement right now, and I would think it'd be the opposite. If anything, we need to create more funding and honor around the job of law enforcement to get all the good apples in there and sort of get the bad apples out.
I mean, I don't think I don't know what the pay structure is for officers, but I can tell you that money is useful when you use it in a useful way. So if you bring in the money, and sure, having more money may attract a different breed of officer, it may not. But if you bring in more money and if you don't defund them, and which is an option, if you actually fund them in specific places, like I said, fund them for training, fund them for town halls, required town halls with the community, funding joint training with the community and police officers. And if you fund them for that, and then constant reviews, and like they said, opening up their case files so that it's for public review. If you put the funding to solve those type of problems, as well as increase the necessary salaries, sure. But just throwing money at it in general, not so much.
Yeah, it's
my opinion, of course. I'm not an expert.
It's something that we've talked about on the show before with Evie Pomporis as well. She's former Secret Service, protected the presidents. You would love her, AJ. I need to introduce you guys. She's like 5 feet tall on her best day, blonde.
She's Brittany.
Blonde Greek girl, and she's very well trained. Obviously, protected the presidents, and she wrote this book called Bulletproof. And she's always told me when we've had these shootings, she said that they don't have at local law enforcement the level of training that they need to handle these situations properly.
That's right. I will tell you, though, that their fears seem to be pretty much unjustified because, and this is why I say this, because if the fear is when they're trying to arrest a person, a large person, maybe a large black person, I say that specifically because George Floyd was a large black person, and I too, at 6'1", 229 pounds, is also a very large black person. If the fear of them being harmed or shot or killed when they're trying to arrest them, then where are the cases of that actually happening? Where are the cases of officers attempting to arrest someone and the officer died in the process because the other person was resisting arrest and killed them? And that's not something that really happens very often. At least I don't think so, and I don't have any news reports, but hey, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we can pull up those statistics and see that actually that happens every time a black person has been killed, which I have a whole list of that has happened too. But no. And another thing that is interesting about that is when you get the community of people say, well, he resisted arrest. So if he resisted arrest, then he should be, that's what happens. And I say this, resisting arrest is apparently against the law. Yes? Okay, great. Well, the law also gives due process. So resisting arrest isn't a crime punishable by death. So I'm pretty sure if he resisted arrest and they took him in and they put him in front of the judge and he got judged by his peers, he wouldn't be assigned to death. But let's say he did get the death penalty for that. Well, he still actually gets to go to prison and get a couple appeals and gets to sit on death row and then gets to get a judge to try to say, you know what, maybe he doesn't deserve. So even then, there's a process for that. So if you're going to say the law says you can't resist arrest, well, the law also says that he needs due process if he did.
Yeah.
That particular crime isn't the death penalty.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like it's, if I was being arrested for no reason, I would be bullshit and screaming and yelling and appearing to resist probably. I mean, I've never been arrested, but I'd be like, what the F? What are you doing? You know, am I going to get shot because of that? I mean, I wouldn't be afraid of that because I'm white and I'm a girl. But that's correct. That's not the case for your daughters.
I'm getting the Amber Alert right now that there's going to be a curfew in Long Beach at 9 p.m. apparently. So let me address it like this. So I also have never been arrested in the United States. I was arrested when I was on an Air Force base because Air Force weren't that happy with Marines. But I've been stopped many times. And I'll give you one scenario when I was stopped. Maria, you know where I live. So I was around the corner from my house. And I used to drive luxury cars. I used to drive Lexus, BMW. I stopped doing that because of this type of reason. I got stopped all the time. So the officer pulled me over, and he asked me. The first thing he asked me when he walked to my window, he says, "Hey, does your parole officer know you're out here?" That was the very first question. Now, mind you, I was at the corner of my house. My house was 3 houses over to the left. If I make the left, I pull into my driveway. But that was the first question he asked me. He says, "Does your parole officer know you're out here?" Now, me being a Marine and have been trained my entire life by my mother, my aunts, my friends on how to respond and behave with officers, I was very calm. I was polite and made sure my hands could be seen. And I said, "Well, officer, I've never been arrested, except for that time when I was on an Air Force base in the Marine Corps, but that was because Air Force don't like Marines. But so I don't actually have a parole officer. But I'm just close to my house." And so that was my response. It was a very formulated, clear response based on my experience and understanding of how to deal with that situation because I've been trained. I've been trained since I was a little boy by my mom on how to deal with these things. And he said, "Okay." Now, if you check my response, I let him know I hadn't been arrested. I let him know that I was a Marine, so I've served in the military, which officers tend to respect. And I let him know that I was around the corner from my house. And I gave all the information he needed in my response. He went away, did whatever he wanted, checked my thing, said, "Look, I don't want to make you out to be a bad guy. Clearly you're not. Your front headlight is out. You're free to go." And he let me go. There you go. That's normal for me. So I stopped driving. Yeah. You may remember me. I started driving that Ford. I had Ford Fusion, Ford C-Max. I gave up sports cars and luxury cars because that started to get old. By the way, I haven't been stopped in my Ford.
Unfreaking believable. And
it's true though.
This is the thing that is so hard for people to understand, right? And so I had posted early on and I got so much hate on my post. They're like, all lives matter, this and that. And I had to I never voice back to people like that for the most part because I'm just like, I can't with the ignorance. But in this situation, I'm like, I have to. And so I was like, you don't know. Like, you have to have empathy for people who just being behind the wheel of their car, they have to worry about how they will be handled if they get pulled over and getting pulled over for no reason as well. We don't have to worry about that. We get in our cars. I speed. I have no worries. I'm going to speed on through. I might get away with it because I'm a pretty girl, right? Other people don't have that privilege. And so when we say Black Lives Matter, it's obnoxious that we even have to say that. But the reason we're saying it is because people aren't valuing Black lives, and they're not.
No, that's the right answer.
And they're not
That's correct.
having any understanding. You got to put yourself in other people's shoes sometimes to understand what it's like. And so it's been such a frustrating process to watch. I don't know if you saw Seth Rogen. Seth Rogen. Oh my God.
I love him.
It quite possibly was the most brilliant post I've ever seen. So he's on Instagram, and I'm pretty sure he posted Black Lives Matter. Yeah, it was Black Lives Matter, just like I had done the day prior or whatever. And people were coming at him. All lives matter. The same stuff I was hearing, I started hearing from everybody else, right? At everybody else's posts. White lives matter too, and all this stuff. And Seth Rogen, I could just hear him in my head. He goes, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. He kept responding to everybody. Fuck you too, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. Don't follow me. Don't watch my movies.
That's funny.
It was
so
cracking me up.
Yeah, people don't get that. There's a little video going around the internet of a young girl, and I'll send it to you later. She's talking to herself. She's playing two parts. And one part she says, "Hey, what are you doing?" She says, "I'm gonna go over here and help put out this fire. These people, their house is on fire." She says, "Well, what about my house?" She says, "Well, is your house on fire?" She's like, "No." She says, "Then we're gonna go help them." She says, "But my house matters too. Does my house matter?" It's like, "Yeah, your house matters, but this house is actually on fire, so we're gonna go help them because lives are in danger." She says, "Oh, all houses matter," and she's like, "What?" But she's talking to herself. But that's a good analogy,
Brilliant,
right?
yeah.
So
yeah.
the point in that is but this one is the one that's in danger. So we're just gonna focus a little bit here
for a second.
That one's still. If it switches and all of a sudden your house catches on fire, we're gonna put both fires out.
Yep.
Another great analogy I heard. It's a comic I love named Aparna Nancherla. She said saying all lives matter is like showing up to a funeral and saying, "But wait, it's my birthday. Can we celebrate me?"
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God, I love it.
That's also a good one.
Yeah. But this is the sad part is like, this is the ignorance that we need to educate, right? That's why they need to hear this here right now from us explaining it to them, right? Like, there are moments where I'm explaining things to people, and when I reference people they respect that have said that, they actually stop and think a little bit. And then sometimes it actually goes through. It's unbelievable to me for people to have no empathy when you see the fact that we literally met a man with a foot on his neck, a knee on his neck, watched him be murdered, and you are saying white lives matter in this moment. The whole point is we're dealing with this issue. This happened. If we saw the opposite happening, well, we would have to deal with that. It's just unreal.
So I agree, of course, but this is a unique time because we actually have an example of it when it went really, really wrong, when someone called the police on a black person for almost no reason because his $20 bill might have been counterfeit, which, by the way, he was probably given a $20 bill that was counterfeit. No one's out there, right? Which happens all the time, and that's okay. That happens. We have a system for that, right? If you bring a counterfeit bill that you got handed to the bank, they will give you a real one and they'll take the counterfeit bill. That's the way that works. So it's not even an issue. But we also have the scenario where the young lady in Central Park was yelling at a black man and said, "I'm going to call the police and I'm going to tell them that an African-American black man is threatening my life." By doing that, she's genuinely threatening his life.
Mm-hmm.
Because so in that scenario, same thing. Someone called the police on a black person who wasn't necessarily doing anything wrong, and then the police show up, and and then something goes wrong. So I want everyone, if anyone is listening to me, the people who are calling the police on us for no reason are a huge problem, almost as big as the police themselves, because on the police, and I'm only saying this because it's the truth, if you call the police and tell them there's danger, they're going to come prepared for danger,
Yep.
which probably means gun draw. Now, everybody has adrenaline, everybody has danger, fight and flight. People are human. That doesn't excuse it. But if you call them and told them that there's danger, he's trying to kill me, then well, I got to come save you.
Yep. That's my
And
job.
they're
I'm here to
prepared
protect.
to use save you force. So the people who make these false calls or calls, they also should be penalized. I'm
Yeah.
not saying they should be put in jail,
No.
but they should probably get fined.
100%. 100%.
Heard a problem. I'm sorry.
It's like if I pulled a fire alarm, I would be fined because I've now wasted the
illegal.
resources.
That's right.
I've wasted the resources of the fire department, the police department, and everyone by lying and saying that there was an emergency. It's the same thing. 100% agree. And I feel like, I saw some things this morning circulating about, new legislation and stuff. And so I am hopeful that these last 9 days are creating the change that we want to see. I am glad to see that, people, despite the COVID crisis, like people are just laying that out and saying, we don't care. Now, hopefully that doesn't now hurt the medical system and our, amazing nurses and doctors. And hopefully, there was enough protections with masks on that we won't have this crazy crisis. But people are laying their lives down in an even bigger way than before, than ever in any protest.
To try to help and support the cause.
Yeah.
So Maria, your voice and your platform is very important. And you using your platform to spread or give people a voice to be heard is priceless. So I'm going to ask you a favor.
Yeah.
I didn't tell you because I didn't think about it until right now. I would like to read some names. Can I do that?
Yeah, of course.
Eric Garner, July 17th, 2014. Michael Brown, August 9th, 2014. Quan McDonald, October 20th, 2014. Tamir Rice, November 22nd, 2014. Walter Scott, April 4th, 2015. Freddie Gray, April 19th, 2015. Jamar Clark, November 15th, 2015. Alton Sterling, July 5th, 2016. Philando Castile, July 6th, 2016. Stephen Clark, March 18th, 2018. Botham Jean, September 6th, 2018. Breonna Taylor, March 13th, 2020. George Floyd, May 25th, 2020. So we've said their names. It's a big deal, man. It sucks. I feel it.
I do too.
And as a war vet, I don't really feel much.
I know. I have felt it. And even when we talked this weekend, I was so sad. And we kept saying you have a platform. I just talked to another friend before, and Meredith, who's been on the show before.
Meredith. Love Meredith.
And she was like, Maria, you have a platform. You can help everybody. And I'm like, I don't know how to help. And I was like, such an emotional wreck. And then when you said it too, I'm like, wait, no, I have to be here. Because, there's a side of me that just, was so overwhelmed with everything. And I just wanted to stay under the covers and cry. And I realized that I can't, and we have to keep talking about it. And I think it was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar who had written, we have to get comfortable being uncomfortable, and we have to have these discussions, and we have to try to educate people, and we have to stand united together and help each other because we are better together, right?
Mm-hmm.
And make this change. Like I just, I told you, when I see the fact that school shootings, they just kept happening, and you thought with Sandy Hook it was going to end, and it didn't. You just keep getting number and number to all of this. Even George Floyd's very good friend, Stephen, oh gosh, I forget his last name. He was a basketball player. He said his wife sent him the video of George, and he was like, I just thought it was another guy getting killed. He was so numb to it. And then he realized it was one of his very good friends, Stephen Jackson. Thank you, Stephen. We can't get numb to this. And
no, but some of us are. When I saw the video, I went through several thoughts. The first thought was, oh crap, hopefully he didn't die. Hopefully he did not die. Maybe they're just being mean. Hopefully he didn't die. And then, again, crap. And it just repeated. And then I start thinking about what in the world is this going to do for my kids. I know Brittany's going to be upset. Ariana's going to be furious. Poor Jay, she doesn't deserve this. We don't deserve this. Because they're going to be concerned about me.
Yeah.
And they always are. Because I fit the same description.
Yep. I worry about you all the time. I've told you this. I think the same thing. Like, why, whatever. It's, yeah. Of course they're going to think that.
That's what we look at. And we're just, it's, imagine how it's much as sucked to me when the thing I had to tell my daughters to calm them down was there's nothing new to see here for us. They're very upset, and rightly so, but this has been going on for us all along. So this is unfortunately status quo, and they were upset. Well, how come people don't get it? They just don't get it. And I'm like, okay, well, don't be upset about that. Look for they say always look for the helpers in an emergency. Look for the people who just got it that didn't get it before. And I said, it's about fanning the flame. Don't try to start a flame. If someone doesn't get it now, and you're like, you need to get it, you got your remember those little pumps to blow the air?
Yeah.
You're never going to get that fire started like that. Take and put that on the fire, someone that did get it. Fan that flame.
Yeah.
Right? And now that will spark, and then that will spread. So don't waste your time trying to get someone who doesn't get it to get it. If they don't get it, they're probably not going to get it right now. Maybe they'll get it later. No one's supposed to be beyond reprieve, right? So focus on the ones that did get it and tell them so they can spread. Because believe it or not, people of color, let's just talk African Americans in particular, since, Black Lives Matter is the thing we're talking about, we're a very small portion of the population. There's really not that many of us. 14%, 13% in different cities, it varies, but there's not much of us, which is why the COVID thing, 50% of the people that died in COVID are Black and people of color, but they represent 10% of the population is a problem. That means it's mostly them dying. It's mostly us dying so there's a small portion of, so really for us to win this battle. I never thought
about it like that it's such a small portion of our country. I would never think about it like that.
Yeah, there's not much of us. So the way for us to win is we need partners.
Yeah.
We need people to come help.
Yes.
Our former history, they knew that.
Yep.
And they got other people to march with us.
Yep.
And right now the world is marching with us. And that's the way we can affect change.
Yeah.
Other people will say, well, there's all different type of guerrilla tactics we can take. Well, we don't want to take guerrilla tactics. Right? We want to take the peaceful method where we can get what we need and deserve as a community, and everyone is safe in the process.
Yeah.
So just remember, there's not that many of us. I mean, I've got friends that I've met people who didn't meet an actual Black person in person until they were an adult. I know several, because that's okay. They live in an area where we're just not there because there's not that many of us.
It's I'm so glad you just brought this point up, and this is the part where I've really been proud to see, people standing up and voicing their opinions despite the outrage from, certain people. If the way I can describe it is if Greeks were getting hurt, right? Like, I would hope that people would step up and help us if that was something that was happening, right? We're all people, and the only way to help a small population, right, is for the rest of us to stand next to you, to
pretty much. It's
like, if we don't help you, you can't, you're the minority, right? In something. If
not enough of us.
We need to be next to you guys. And when I see people marching with, in the protests, white, Indian, Hispanic, whatever it is, that is what America is supposed to be. We all come here and we're a melting pot. Immigrants and all of us are supposed to be together. One nation under God. And so I think if we as white privileged people. Do not stand next to our brothers and sisters, our friends, AJ, our friends Ebony, our friends Titus, our friends Bose, all of Vin and his family. If I don't stand next to my friends and say, I'm not going to put up with this, I'm not going to watch this happen, then who's going to?
That's the way it gets solved. And that's the only proper way it gets solved. And it's solvable.
Yeah.
Together it's solvable. Individually, not so much.
We're better together.
But together it's solvable.
And Maria,
and there's so many people. That's the light. The light in this moment is that there's so many people across the world that are standing up and saying, "Oh, that is enough."
Yeah, enough's enough.
That is enough. And if we talk about, and we should probably talk about it, is the looters, the protests that turned violent.
Yeah.
So I will tell you that I was there at the first protest in Los Angeles near the Grove that went to crap. I was there with Courtney. I was there with Jade. I was there what I would call on security detail, because it's not someplace I would typically go from my experience in my military war stuff. I don't really go to things like that, but they were going to go regardless. So I went there with them. And I have a different set of eyes. Okay. So I was teaching them, I was pointing out to them the people who clearly don't belong there. Be concerned about those. If the weather was nice and hot, someone's in a full dress, they have on a jacket, they have on a full hoodie with a black and a cover, and they're walking by themselves, they're not walking with anyone else, they have bulges. I'm not condemning them. I said, be concerned about that person. So you can see all these people who, they don't have a sign, they're not standing, they're not listening, they're walking through the crowd, right? These are really clear signs that they're suspicious. I'm not saying guilty, suspicious. Maybe they're on their way to meet someone. It's not the point. But you start paying attention. Then you start paying attention to the surroundings. So behind there, when you got into a clearing, well, oh crap, there's a big old parking structure over there. Well, remember Vegas. Okay, so the police should be there. That is a place where we could get picked off, right? So that's training, right? I have a different set of eyes. Okay, so these are the things that have to be incorporated in the protest. The people who are protesting, and they already have started to help, they can help prevent that, because they can protest in areas where looting isn't easy to get to.
Yeah.
So in order for the looters to destroy something, they have to break way off from the group.
Yeah.
And it is really obvious.
Well, they use the good protesters as a distraction so they can rush off and go do their work.
Right. So let's strategically find places where we could protest where looting is not easy. And I'm not saying that they haven't done that. I'm just telling you that there's ways that we can work together so that we can minimize that and not put people at risk. Because the officers, and one of the reasons why I believe they stay back a lot, is because a lot of their tools that they would normally use to enforce such things have been taken away. They can't really hit people without getting, and they shouldn't, and they can't really hold and restrain people. And for the most part, city control by a police department is mostly an illusion, because they are policing the small percentage of people that need to be policed. But if the entire city needs to be policed, or a large portion, that's too much for the resources. Okay, so people need to understand that the majority of reason why our country and our cities and our town are peaceful is because we decide to be peaceful. The vast majority of us decide that those rules are worth following, and we follow them, so that the few that don't can be handled by the few law enforcement that we have. The moment that switches, law enforcement gets overrun, cities get overrun, countries get overrun. So people who expect the police to be able to do everything don't understand the structure of a city and how it actually works. They have to do stuff too. They have to talk to that person, ask their son, were you out there looting last night? Ask their kids, where did you get that television? Now, don't get me wrong. Part of the reason is the COVID-19 shut down the city. People lost their jobs. Some of these people looting actually need money. That's not okay. That doesn't justify it.
Yeah.
Right. But they're cooped up, and the children and the young ones just give me a reason to explode, right? So that exasperated the thing, that made it worse. So we need to consider that as we try to diffuse it,
Yeah.
not excuse it, diffuse it.
I get that. And AJ, there's part of me, I gotta say, 5%, that almost feels like in a way some of this looting is justified. I mean, I'm so angry. Like when I hear that you worked your whole life to be able to drive nice cars and you can't because of this system in place, I kind of get why people would be angry enough to break into businesses feeling like it's giving them some sense of control. And I gotta say, for centuries, the community has non-violently protested and it hasn't really worked. So I kind of understand the mentality behind the aggression.
Well, Jeff, there's a few things going on that like are important to know in terms of like how protesting and how looting have their own role in how change is made. Because when you're dealing with situations like this and you're dealing with so many times where change hasn't been made, the looting is a symptom of a greater issue. But really, the money moves change. And if people don't make it obvious enough that, you know,
You're not going to take it.
yeah, and like when rich people get, honestly, when the rich people are the people who are finally being inconvenienced, that's when they call the people that they're funding, which are usually our government constituents, which they're giving all the money to, and they're keeping them elected, and say, hey, this needs to stop. That's when change starts being made, is you have to make it a big enough inconvenience for the people who have the money and the power to make those moves. And something you said earlier, AJ, really spoke to me when you said that this is the status quo. And Maria, you said that like when you would hope that if Greeks were getting attacked, people would stand up and help them. And I think in situations like that, because it would be something new, people would. But because currently this is the status quo, everyone who's not affected by it doesn't feel like it's something new that's happening for them to stop. They feel like this is the life, this is what it is, this is normal.
Well, let them deal with it.
Well, yeah, like this is normal. It's not something new, so why am I going to get up to fight it?
Yeah.
Right? So like when it's the status quo, you have a lot less support because people don't feel like it's their battle. Now, if somebody was going out there and randomly started attacking Greeks and killing Greeks left and right, people are like, oh, this is new. This is something to get against and this is something to fight against.
Yeah. I also think, you know, I lost my train of thought.
well, I that's, of course, that's true, but that's why because for the rest of the world, for the other parts of the world that are getting involved, it's actually not new for them. I mean, it's not old for them. It's newer for them, at least our portion of the cost, because they're not physically here. So that's a good thing. So maybe that's actually partially why they're involved. But I also believe that it has to do with the way communication works in this new day and age. It's just easy and flying through.
Yeah.
So, flying. I guess we shouldn't forget about SpaceX.
I know we're going to totally talk about SpaceX, but I do agree, and I told you, AJ, and you were like, I hate that might have to be the truth, but I do agree that unless there are stakes in it for everyone, not just the Black community, but for the white community, unless it's like gonna hurt us personally, no one's gonna move. And this is the point I was gonna make when I lost my train of thought is, we live in such an amazing time, right? Our lives are fabulous, right? We go to Starbucks, we get our coffee, we go on our vacations, we're doing, all these fun things on Instagram, and lives are awesome. And so we want our fabulous lives to continue. We don't want them to be interrupted. So school shootings interrupt it. Racial violence interrupts it. The church, molestations interrupts it. Everybody just gets outraged for a minute, and then they're like, oh shit, I want to go back to playing Nintendo and having an awesome life. Like, we don't continue holding on to things. And that's why 9 days later, we're still here, because people know that if they don't keep marching, shit isn't gonna change. And we still don't have those other 3 officers arrested. George Floyd's family stood up today. I watched it on the news, and they said, we are calling on the arrest of the other 3. And the attorney general is supposed to make an announcement today. And you bet your ass, I bet they're going to say they're arrested, because this is not going to stop until they do get arrested. And they should be arrested.
So I don't disagree with that at all. But I like to think long game, and I like to think 50,000 foot, not just 5 feet away. And those people who are handling that know that if they go about the arresting portion wrong, then they could lose the case. And if they lose the case, this happens again, maybe worse.
Because how would they lose the case?
Well, people get off for killing black people all the time, so they could totally lose the case.
Oh, so they're worried that if they arrest them and those guys are not penalized and charged and they get let go.
Then we do this again.
Got it.
And
so they
we
might
do it
think
again
that it's a
mostly
weak
because
case.
it's a precedent been set. Yeah.
Got
so
it.
we not only need them to be arrested, we need them to be convicted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because remember, in 1992, those LA riots started when the cops got off.
Yeah.
Not when it's right.
Oh,
So
I'm hearing in our
to
chat
that
I'm hearing in our chat, Tony Tang just said that they just charged the other 3 and they were arrested. I mean, as if I didn't know right in that moment.
7 minutes ago, all 4 former officers involved in George Floyd's killing now face charges.
It's about time. It took 9 freaking days. It took, 5 days for them to arrest, or 4 days to arrest
Chauvin.
Yeah. So, I mean, I said this to you this weekend. Why haven't they arrested these guys so that people feel like justice is going to be had? I mean, listen, we've been there before and it hasn't, but there's no way these guys are going to get away with it this time. There's just no way.
Maria, I would love to have your type of optimism, but I don't want to make a prediction, but I will just tell you there's totally a way they can get off of it.
I know,
They're already talking about, and I read this, they're already talking about the coroner says his cause of death was not asphyxiation.
Well, so, if you read the fine print, though, because at first I was horrified. If you read the fine print, it said that it wasn't the cause of death, but because of his pre-existing conditions, the heart and all of that, along with the asphyxiation, it created it. So it was a part of it. And we all know, because we're looking at it, we have the video to know that if he didn't step on his neck, he wasn't going to die.
Yeah, with his hands in his pocket. I get that. But we've got video of more direct killing, of people chasing people down and hunting them and shooting black people. Or I'm sorry, I don't mean to tell you this, but it's just the truth. It's historically speaking. I'm just talking what has happened before. Yes, they could get off.
But my belief is because of everything that's going on right now, and like we said, it's hitting people in their pockets, and it's unfortunate because, as you know, there are casualties of war. There are really amazing people who were hanging on by a thread, who now have lost their businesses as well, Black-owned businesses and such. I just can't imagine. I think I'll pack up and move if that happens. I really don't think I'll stay here.
I'm not leaving my country. No chance. I'm not leaving America. No, I was born here. My ancestors fought to stay here and live, and I fought for the country. And by the way, I fought for freedom. So when people say, well, the military, they fought for that flag and you can't do anything with that flag. No, I actually fought for freedom. I fought for the freedom for you to be an asshole to them and for them to not like it, and for them to be an asshole to you and you not like it, because that's freedom. So I fought, I'm staying, I'm not going anywhere. This is my country. I'm going to fix it. I'm going to build it. I'm a patriot for a reason. I got shot at enough for it. I'm not going anywhere.
I love you. Okay, I'll stay with you and fight. I won't leave.
Appreciate it.
I wasn't going to leave, but I get so upset that that's the only way I can express it. But you're right.
Yeah, I definitely think there's a chance that they don't get convicted.
Oh my God, Stephen, really?
No, yeah, honestly.
He's only talking about reality.
Because when you look at the police force as a whole and you look at the precedent that's been previously set, people there is a case that lawyers will make that they were standing and they were under orders by Chauvin to stand down or whatever they're going to say, because there's not a clear video that has all the conversation between the cops. There is a clear video of George's death, which completely is incriminating. But you know how lawyers are, Maria. Mm-hmm. You know that the slightest bit of misinformation or witness testimony that kind of lays it out in a different way, It's done. And what are they going to
Done.
do? Like, it's a tied-in police force. They're going to just say, oh, 3 people backing up each other. That's what it becomes. It becomes three cops backing up each other.
This whole discussion is giving me gas.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I was like in a really positive place before that part. Let's also talk about Black leaders that were elected yesterday. That was awesome, right?
Huge. So, Maria, you sent me this. I started crying when I opened it. In Ferguson, the first female African-American mayor was elected yesterday. That's, however you feel about it, that's a pretty cool symbol.
Yep. And then the mayor of Berkeley, Missouri.
Yep. Babatunde Diembo won the election as well. I think.
Wait, Jeff, you get an award. You actually know how to say her name too. I friggin' love you. Because I'm looking at it, or his name.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm looking at something else here. But I was looking down at this, and I'm like, I don't know how to say that name.
If I did my job, I would have put a pronunciation guide in there. But
so see, you screwed me.
It's
There
on
we
me.
You're
go.
going to have to watch the movie.
It's on me. But it's these are and AJ, I want you to speak to this too, but to me, these are the kinds of symbols we have to lock our eyes on to create a sense of hope and optimism, because personally, I'm like you, Maria, I want to do everything I can, and I feel very, very angry, and I don't know. I don't always know what I can be doing or how I can be helping.
AJ.
So, you have to hold on to things like that so that you cannot be angry. The anger isn't going to help you much, but you have to direct that anger to action that is not fueled by anger. Let me say it again, right? You have to direct that anger to action that's not fueled by anger.
Yeah.
And that action could just be simply communicating or doing the job that you're doing right now, or having an understanding that you can spread. When you get anger behind it, anger is the destroyer of your thinking. So you can't think clearly through anger. And in order to be strong, you have to be calm. And you have no idea how long it took me to learn that one.
Yeah.
But in order to be strong, you have to be calm. So by all means, use it, but don't let it fuel it.
And I think for us, it's kind of like, what is it in the army? They're like, leave no man behind, or what's
No man left behind.
Everyone comes home.
no man left behind. Like, we can't leave our friends behind. So if you're seeing injustice, if you're hearing injustice, if you're hearing slurs, if you're hearing racist remarks or whatever, you have to stop it. Like, stop it. Like, catch that ball in your fist. Like, psh, nope, not happening around me, not happening. That's like the least
I
that we
hear
can
you,
do.
Maria. I just want everyone to not expect overnight change, because if you expect that, you're going to be disappointed.
Yeah.
It has to be gradual change. If everyone expects that this stuff is going to stop today and never happen again, then you're setting yourself up for some anger coming soon. But we have to create change that's sustainable change over time and continues. I love it if all of a sudden another Black person never gets attacked and hurt again. Historically, not likely. But it's okay. Let's all together agree to make a systematic change that can make long-lasting change. Because if we make a quick change, then we can have the rubber band effect and it'll just go back to what it was. So let's just sustain together.
Can we end on a funny note?
Sure.
Sure.
So,
got a joke?
There was some really amazing, and I should have sent it to you guys, but I'm only thinking about it right now. There was an amazing bust that Barstool busted this girl. And this is just a symptom of the disgustingness in our society. This girl went up to a construction worker who was, boarding up a business or cleaning up a business. And she asked him if she could hold his drill and take a picture so she could put on Instagram that she helped with the cleanup effort. And her boyfriend or husband took the photo of her, and they got back into their Mercedes and said, "Thank you so much," and like rushed off. And this girl is supposedly a journalist who's now like made her account private. But Ava DuVernay, you're right, there you go. She posted it. It was so disgusting, so embarrassing. There's another girl, Yep. This is the other footage. There's another girl who had her boyfriend or husband take a picture of her just staring at the destruction from behind. I just can't. I was texting it with some girlfriends yesterday, and I was just like, what the F is wrong with people?
Smash T-Mobile.
Look at this. Can you see these?
All right, let's go.
Oh
Let's go
my
get a
God.
macchiato.
This girl is making her boyfriend.
You got to find the other one too, Jeff. I have it. I can send it to you right now, Stephen. Of
Wow, that's great.
these unbelievable. This one's the best. If you can see this, you're gonna just die. Stephen, should I text it to you?
If you can email it, I'm trying to find it right now. I might on Ava DuVernay's Twitter.
I'll put it in our Slack right now. Does that help you?
That does not help me.
Okay, well, perfect. AJ, being our resident tech expert, knows, I'm sure, all about Slack.
Yeah, I have several Slack accounts, of course.
We're
Good way to communicate from my staff.
Why didn't you teach me about this before? We just got on it and I'm obsessed. It's like life-changing in terms of emails and stuff.
There's lots of different platforms. I actually didn't choose Slack. My CTO did.
Uh-huh.
So
We
I
love
put
it.
him in charge of that. So I
Okay,
trust
so
him.
here's the girl. Are you watching this?
Yeah, he's seeing it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really
And she goes off with her boyfriend
Instagram.
for Instagram.
Good job, guys.
In their Mercedes.
Good job, guys.
Good job, guys.
I'm so embarrassed. I'm so disgusted. And it made me question any girl I had seen on Instagram that was like, cleanup crew. I did go through, and I was on another note, so that was just me wanting to express my disgust. I did go through Van Nuys yesterday, and it was so clean. And everybody had cleaned up. And that was another beautiful thing that I saw. And it started, I think, in Minneapolis, where you saw the communities come out and clean up and help each other. And I will end on that note, which again, we are better together.
Yeah.
And
You'll get that. Communities.
yeah,
Absolutely.
and we all do want to help each other. And I really, I am hopeful and I'm praying hard that that we're going to see the change that is needed and is deserved and is right. So, AJ, I love you.
Yes, ma'am.
I thank you for
Hey,
joining,
You're very welcome.
and I hope we can get together very soon and talk about other stuff like SpaceX and
Absolutely.
and other tech stuff. So we'll do like a whole tech SpaceX. I know Steven's like dying to, but we're so out of time at this point.
I miss talking to AJ. The deep conversations that get a little crazy.
I know.
Right?
I'm sad because I was planning for us to do something for my birthday this weekend, which is also Steven's birthday. But you know, celebrating anything right now doesn't seem
Appropriate.
But we will at some point. Kevin said we're just going to postpone it, and we will get together and have those amazing AJ conversations that
I mean,
we all love so much.
We shut down AfterBuzz for the next week.
Yeah.
And we
kind of hard to talk
never-
about superfluous things right now.
Yeah.
And so we made a decision to shut it down. But thank you, AJ.
Yeah, that's a song by Public Enemy. Shut it down.
All right. I love you. My love to the girls.
Love you too.
And we'll talk
Good to
soon.
see you guys and hear you guys for the ones I didn't see.
Yes, you too, AJ.
Thank you. All right, guys. If you want to know more about AJ or interact with him at all, you can go to his social media at AJ Jolivette. We will put that in the summary, so you can just click the link. He is a black belt collective Krav Maga expert down in Huntington Beach. I'm sure he could train you if you're in the area. But thank you guys for joining us as always. Tomorrow, we have a show planned. I don't know what's going to happen. We're just kind of flying by the seat of our pants. But depending on how we feel, we have world-renowned psychologist Dr. Dan Siegel. His work is really foundational for a lot of the experts that we have had on the show. He talks about the brain, and I've been riveted reading his book And it's really helping me understand my mom and some of her cognitive stuff. So I'm really excited to have that conversation with him. But we'll see. We'll see how we feel tomorrow. Thank you guys for joining us. Love you. Be nice people, make good choices, and be present.